We call it stories of inspiring people, stories of incredible people, stories of intriguing people. However you want to use the I, but it's SIP. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the SIP, and it's not one of those gossip platforms or anything like that because it's called the SIP. It's called the SIP Msaki because the show is called Stories of Interesting People or Stories of Inspiring People, and we sip, from their well of knowledge, from their well of experiences, from generally the well of their existence, Mr. V. You see. So that is what it is. We don't generally, as a platform, do anything gossipy. We focus on the art and archiving. I think for me, why we set it up was to say that we have so many storytellers in Africa who are telling their own stories, but there isn't a lot of people who are behind them telling their stories while they tell their stories. So that's why we started the SIP, and we kind of set this platform up because we want to start now archiving so that many years from now, people can know how you felt on this particular day or the experiences that you're going through, this year and the other years. So we're not like a gossip platform or anything like that. Don't feel pressure to give us anything juicy, Mr. V.
That's all in there, don't worry.
Thank you very much for coming through, Msaki. And I must say that personally, I'm very nervous to interview you.
Oh man, Tipa, come on!
I'm very nervous to interview you.
Yeah, you're such a great conversation. This is your gift, So I'm excited.
I'm grateful, and Vinnie, my brother, thank you for coming through. I think I just got to know you now when I was going through the recommendation list of at Alt Black, and I'm talking to Toby to say, Who else can we, also can we talk with? Who else? Whose story can we highlight? So thank you very much for coming through this morning, man.
I'm happy to be here.
You told me that you are coming straight from a bus.
Straight up.
From the Eastern Cape.
And I wasn't nervous. I'm nervous now again. I'm just as nervous as you are.
So let me explain my nerves, Msaki, right? I respect people who do things right. And I think you're one of those people. You're constantly, against all the odds, pushing yourself to do something right, pushing yourself to set your art, your personal image to a certain level, right? So with people like that, you're always very weary coming into the interview as to how do I make this experience excellent for them? How do I match the bar of what they're doing in my world, right? So hopefully I'll get to that standard of excellence because I respect a lot of people at Alt Black. I think I'll go into it, into my reasons a little bit later and why, right? But for context for people who are watching, I've been talking for too long. I'm going to give it to you now.
No worries.
For context for people who are watching, I think, Vinnie, when I got to know Msaki, it was round about, maybe let's say 10 years ago. And this is not knowing her as a person, right? So there were these sessions at African Freedom Station that were hosted by this gentleman that is called, I think his name is Steve Koe now. Or Steve
Koenamukwe.
Yeah, Steve Koenamukwe. So it was a very sort of Afrocentric space that focused on art, that celebrated African artists, and that piece of performance that I saw there was, I think, according to Steve Koenamukwe, the first time that you're performing in Johannesburg.
I was fresh off a bus from the Eastern Cape. It was a bit of an assumption, but he wasn't wrong. It was my second time. The first time I had come through, I'd spent a week also just putting together gigs at coffee shops, playing at random places that would allow me to produce and take over and invite my own people, and try and gain some kind of audience and a space to find my own voice. So by the time I was coming to the Freedom Station, it was my second visit. Yeah.
It was your second visit in Johannesburg.
As an artist, to come and make music. I've been to family before, independently coming on my own to be like, I'm coming to Joburg for a week to just push, That was the second time. And the first time was also very short. So those in and out trips really formed me, I think.
Yeah, no. So you're having your early bus days, Vin. It's going to be okay. But where I want to go, Msaki, is when you're about to talk to somebody as yourself, you go through a whole lot of research and try to find out what are the interesting points that we can be able to talk about so that we don't just waffle this thing through. But we spoke about you coming to Joburg, and that was 10 years ago when you're performing first, second time. also at the African Freedom Station. But I'm interested in something that I discovered, that you went to North Carolina to a music school at some point. And you spoke about in another interview the fact that there is where you learned to kind of merge the world of music and spirituality. Can you just maybe a little bit before, how did you decide to even go to North Carolina? Where were you in your life at that particular time, and what were you doing?
When I came across this space in North Carolina, I met it through my best friend at varsity. She was also one of my housemates. And she went there and came back changed. She was a violin player, not really trying to be a musician full-time, had a heart for young people, was genuinely just interested in creativity and how to make those rhythms make sense, because she knew that she was a creative and she wanted to know how to express and to make space for that in her life in a way that was intentional and in a way that would bless people. And I met the space through her. And it was a community of artists that were basically making like a mentorship program where they were training people with photography, videography, music, songwriting, listening, art making, visual art, and some crafts in between, but basically trying to link that to how we're all inherently creative, because we are supposedly created by a creator. And it did have a lens, obviously, of coming from the Christian faith, but I find all those lessons extremely useful, like even now, and also really broad and profound spiritually. The first thing that they did to us when we got there was to say, we know you're amazing. We chose you out of like 3,000 applicants. So you don't have to prove that you're good. We know you're good.
Wow, that was affirming.
So they were like, thank you for arriving. Now it's tools down, you rest. And we're just going to sing over you, and you're going to rest, and you're not going to find your way in community by how good you are. And for 2 weeks we were banned, essentially, from making anything. They were just like, can you just vibe each other? Can you listen to, us affirming you without even knowing what it is that you can do in this moment? And for those that are burnt out, can you find a way to regenerate? And there were people that were burnt out.
True. So now you get there and they say to you, just find your solitude, just relax and sort of tap into yourself. When you are, coming from South Africa, going into North Carolina, what kind of, mental thinking space were you in that you would say was altered by that particular experience of being in North Carolina for this music session?
So many things that were formed there. And the first one was just the idea of not expecting yourself to create from an empty place. How do you fill your well? I called it a well. Some people called it a lake. Some people call it all sorts of things. But I was like, how do I deepen my well? How do I make sure it's rich? How do I know that when I'm fishing for songs, something true and unique and creative is coming from there? And the fact that you have to replenish and you have to listen, So I don't know, man. It's just... lots of things changed, but they were all there. I think they just needed to be cemented. They were all there before I arrived. And also just understanding so many things about living in community, understanding so many things that are taken for granted about collaboration, competition, when it's healthy and when it's destructive, humility, when it's false and when it's real, humility rooted in confidence. So many things that I need now when people are like, well done, you did this. You need to learn how to accept those flowers and take them, put them in the vase, make them flower the room. If you hold on too tight, they poison you. But if you don't receive them, you're also not paying homage to your gift, and you're also not being grateful for the fact that that's being recognized in you, So so many principles that I've taken through to my art making and how I survive the space right now.
And how long would you say it took you to be able to accept compliments?
It was a 5 minute. I mean, because you grow up thinking that false humility is good, especially if you're a person who's had to explain a lot about what your gift is for and why it's there. You're like, oh, that old song. Oh, what? Oh, and I didn't realize how trained I was in downplaying things that actually people are saying, actually, that's excellent. Hey, you should celebrate that. And losing opportunities to grow it because I'm not even acknowledging the little that's being shown, So when I figured out and when I was taught that this false humility thing is actually very dangerous, and you need to say thank you with your chest, and you need to take the moment and understand that gratitude is a building block. But at the same time, it's like, I get it. I get why you want to shy away. I get the concept that sometimes you when you know that you're being visited by the genius, by a genius, an energy of genius, and there's a universal library of creativity that's available to you that you can tap into, that links to how much you're able to listen in the moment. Then you can't help but be humble, because you know that you're not I didn't sit at my desk and flex and write a song. It's literally like, I believe there's a song hovering over me at any given time, and if I can shut up long enough, I'll hear it and collaborate with the song, with the universe, you know.
I think we're going to tap into that a little bit, but I want to invite Vinnie also into this discussion. I want to talk about the process or the difference between songwriting and song catching, and you are somebody who's defined as a song catcher. So I just want for you to take me a little bit into that psychology. But my brother Vinnie, so when Toby gave me like your name, I was like, okay, cool. Let me go check this gentleman out. I go to Spotify, I listen to Makeleni. You know, it's something dancey and very vibey. Then I go online, I listen to Colors in the Dark, and it's a completely different man. You know what I mean? Firstly, I would just like you to maybe introduce yourself for people that have not experienced you or your music. Just give us a little bit about your background, because one thing that's interesting that I found out was in the documentary that you did, you mentioned the fact that for a long time in your life, it was you and the solitude of radio, you know. So just take me through that moment of you discovering music and what you can be able to achieve with Sonics.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I'm Vinnie Mac. For those who don't know, Msaki has me buzzing, by the way, because like you hit it on the nail, you know. That's exactly what it is. It's almost like you're reacting to something. Like when you say that you catch songs. I mean, she's a songwriter, but she catches songs, and I kind of feel like that's the same thing that happens with me and my music. I can never really explain what sound I'm working with now. So we have to sit back and look at it and be like, okay, hey, actually that's soul. Actually, that's blues. Okay, you're here now. But most of the time, it's moving through, you know, and the stories that come out are from lives that we've lived before, or from feelings that you felt from somebody else, you know. Because for me, sonically, that's what happens. I don't really sit down and write for a month. I don't think I've ever done that, actually, where I sit down and I really write a song for a month. It's always here and now, and if I feel it now, I'm here with you. And if you are detached, I'm not able to do that. The time will come for that song to come back and visit us, you know? But, I mean, that's what you've been hearing.
Yeah.
Because the Colors in the Dark was that. That was live recording. Most of those songs are freestyled. I wrote 2.
Whoa.
You know? Like, I write and rewrite these songs in my head. I don't write them down, because once I memorize these songs and I come back 2 weeks later, it doesn't come out the same way. I can't play it like that.
And just for curiosity's sake, would you define yourself as an artist that writes from pain or joy?
Ooh, these things are the same to me. I mean, we have to feel them all. These emotions to me are the same. They balance each other out. They balance you out. You know, like we were speaking earlier on, that we're not one-dimensional beings. So we've got to feel all of these things in order to feel our ways around this world that we're in, or whatever realm you're in at the time. So as not to get lost in that emotion. You know. So if you're hearing pain, there's pain in there.
And if I'm hearing joy,
it's there.
It's true to the experience. I just also want to talk about, maybe because you did mention in the documentary that, you know, your grandmother would come back 3 hours later from work and find you just chilling with your music. And I know that in terms of talent, before you get into what people call the mainstream or structured system, there are people who are backing you and supporting you. There's your executive producer, whose money that you are using to experience music for the first time. What sort of role did your grandmother play in inspiring your music and helping you discover the song within?
Yeah. My grandmother's another black parent, really. Because even what I was saying there was, I would come back from sport at like 3:30 from rugby practice, and she's not home yet. You know, she's coming from 45 minutes out. So she leaves work at 4:30. She'll get home at like 6. So it's myself and myself and the music and the tape deck at the time it's in the 90s.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, she had a big role to play because
Yeah.
she knows that I love this music. She wouldn't touch it. She wouldn't, like, it's my room. It's my music. So Agaimo, she doesn't try to interrupt that process, you know. But as you get older, you find that she's backing you up, but she doesn't want to say it because the money's not coming in.
Yeah.
You know, like this kid wants to do anthropology, but he's chasing the studios all the time. You know what I mean? So if anyone had my back, it was my gram, but not direct. You can sense that the person wants you to win, you know. And I grew up with this lady. Like, she knew me in and out, you know. So even when she was on some, hey, no, dude, money, there was a fire that made me think, actually, I'm going to make money through this, you know. I never once really felt like, I don't want to do this. I want to give up. Anytime it gets hard, I feel like doing it more, you know, like it's a challenge. So everyone I've ever worked with, Msaki even, like she even taught me how to do things that I'm doing now. And I noticed now that, I learned that from her. Like a storyboard, I didn't know what a storyboard was. You showed me what a storyboard was, like a whole wall in a room. It's just full of what she wants to do and how she's going to get to it. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, this person is not organized, but they're trying to be organized and they're showing me how to do it. And today we're looking at Msaki that started like that. So like everyone that I've met in my life has a role that they've played in how I am today, you know? And influences.
Msaki, before the mainstream, before the big music hype, friend, family member, somebody that you knew, who would you say emotionally, financially, or otherwise was the first most invested person in your art of making music?
I mean, I inherited a gift definitely from my family, from my dad. I mean, also from my mother's side, there's a lot of music. Everybody there, you know, has just incredible. But you know, in a black family, even people don't look at me first. They skip. They're like, this is no my bombs. You know, like I'm on the bench.
Yeah.
Everyone can sing, you know, but to make it a career, you have to convince people by doing. And it wasn't easy for me. I don't want to lie. I had to make choices, you know, where I'm being offered this big deal and it means I must move to Joburg. But I know that if I do that, it will crush my parents because there are so many fears around this thing that I'm doing already. And ones that are justified. You know, we have horror stories about how musicians have been plucked out and then, you know, been taken to Joburg to be music slaves or whatever. And I said, I just don't need to put them through that. So let me do this thing close by. And I made a choice that I'm going to start at home and I'm going to create what I want to see. I want to create what I want to be part of. And I'm going to use that time to work on the craft because I haven't, you know, put in the work. I'm a late bloomer when it comes to music. I haven't been singing in the church choir since I was 7 and I haven't, you know, I missed it. I could have studied music at school, but I didn't see it as that gift. I didn't give it the value. So now that I was like, this is the thing that makes me tick. This is the thing that wakes me up at night. You know, then I just needed to put in the time and it didn't matter where that was. In East London. And this is how I became friends with Vince, you know, looking for people that couldn't help but make, that were always in studio.
We were in the
trenches. I was like, as soon as I started making music and trying to find music community, Vince was one of the first people I met. And we started writing together immediately, you know, so family, they came around because they needed to be, you know, kind of coaxed out of their fears, and they needed patience to see that this thing is actually going to support me. And you know, everybody just wants you to be able to take care of yourself and to be independent. There's no malice. It's all love. Yeah. So once you can demonstrate that, then you know their fears subside and the support is full. Now they're my biggest fans. They send me, if they hear me on radio, I get a video clip. If they see me on TV, if they see anything, and you can feel the joy, and they're there 100% behind me, you know. But they needed to see it, needed time.
That's beautiful. I think maybe I kind of jumped the gun a little bit. In my head, I also wanted to talk with you about sports, right? And well, when we were shooting the Fetch Your Life music video, you showed off your hockey skills there a little bit, but
you were there.
It was, you know, a pocket of the things that you were able to do with sports. Just take me through the experience of being a sporting athlete and as to whether it has similarities to maybe being a musical athlete, you know.
Hectic. I'm thinking about my match fitness now as a musician. I was like, my lungs, guys. You know, Msaki Mbuli used to take his choir on jogs. And I know why. Because, man, you need to be a machine. Like, when people see Beyonce whipping her hair back and forth, and I'm only finding this out now that I'm doing more electronic sets. It requires so much more of a, like a higher energy that I never used to access when I'm just playing guitar and with my band and I'm walking. It takes a lot of energy, that, because you're spiritually opening yourself. But man, I'm like, I need to get fit for my electronic sets.
That's interesting. So you played hockey.
Yeah.
You ran, and what else did you do?
I ran. I played provincial cricket. I played national hockey and tennis. I really thought that would be my path in life. What else did I do? I really like cricket. Oh, I told you that. And then I'm not really sure what anything with anything, like I'd pick up something and want to do it. But it is also, I grew up in a family where over the December holidays we were all jogging, getting ready for whatever season. Like my sister was a South African squash champion. My brother was playing provincial rugby, and he worked hard because he wasn't, we just train in the weekend and on the holidays, and my dad was a runner and he played a bit of tennis, so it was a very disciplined household. And I think for me, that putting in the hours, it was just one of those things that you can't escape. Like, even if you're a talented runner, if I was all day in December, come that January first cross-country meeting, you will get egg on your face. It happened to me once, where I thought I was a teenager now and I didn't run as much and I was interested in what people were doing, and I just didn't train for the season. And I remember the first meeting, it was so embarrassing because I was just not fit enough, and I just remember that feeling of being like, you don't want to get caught unprepared, because those are the things that you can help. There are things that you can't help, like how much talent you get for free, but putting in the work, that's really up to you. And I think sport taught me that.
Yeah. I mean, Vinnie, for you earlier on, we were speaking about how boxing is your first love.
Yeah.
And how
that's how they know me in East London.
Yeah, box. But then you also mentioned something very interesting to say. You respect more a boxer who knows beat, who knows
the rhythm.
music, who knows rhythm. Can you just, for somebody who might not understand,
no, for sure.
How does rhythm and boxing sort of intersect?
So similar to what Msaki was saying, because that's what you get from sport.
Sorry, Vinnie. I think you guys can bring Msaki's coffee in.
Hallelujah.
We are talking about the similarities between boxing and music, and you're talking about how there's similarities between the rhythm and paces. Can you just take us through that?
I was right there, because I was saying like that, like with your boxing, it's not just talent, it's the same thing that Osisi was saying, but it's not just talent. You have to put in that hard work. But with boxing, in order to be trainable and in order to really get to that core talent and skill of yours, your abilities to push them, you have to forget anything that you know. It's the same thing with music. Like, you may be the illest, the best vocalist or whatever, but when you're in studio with people or when you're writing songs with people, you forget how talented you are. You have to forget who you are, and just take in whatever's coming. So it's second nature. So with hip boxing, I find that it's the same thing. I mean, even with just walking, I can tell which arm is going to come at me. I can tell how you're going to pounce or move back. I can tell your movement like that's music for me. To be able to preempt about, okay, this is how you're moving. It's like dancing, man.
It's like playing in a band.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like, I know about
what your guitarist is
and this is
doing.
what I'm going to cover, so we're in harmony. And that's boxing. Me and the person who I'm fighting with, we're actually dancing. We're in harmony. And whoever loses that harmony is the one that gets knocked. You know what I'm saying? The same with the match fitness. If you don't have match fitness, the movement is lagging. You know what I mean? Your rhythm is off. So for me, I've always felt that with hip boxing, that's where you really go beyond your intelligence now. Because first it's all intellect. You're taking the pain, you're taking the hits, and it's all intellect, but then eventually you stop thinking. And with Umculo, it's the same thing. I've been watching it all my life, growing up in Southernwood, amongst the flats, the roughest parts of Southernwood and the most beautiful parts. You could tell when danger's coming in, so you move that way, and they can, we feed off each other so much that most of the time there's no fights, because Sesiyaz wasn't undone.
And I guess maybe I'm pushing it here, but I think coming from where I come from, I would say, Msaki, that environments have sound, Vinnie, right?
Straight up.
So
Crazy.
Straight up.
a safe area
Inshallah.
sounds a certain way,
Smells a certain way.
smells a certain way in comparison to like an area that's unsafe.
Yeah, I mean,
Do you find the experience the same?
see, that's what I used to love. Like remembering how you felt when you were 8 years old, moving in the forest, and you could feel that there was a dog there, or there's a rabbit there, or there's a snake there. It's the same thing that, like, we have those senses until we die, but they numb. Like, you know, we start numbing ourselves from certain things that we feel, from sensations. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, with my music, it's all about feeling. For me, that's just as important as writing. You know, you can feel it even though you can't understand what I'm saying. And these communities that we grow up in help us hone these skills, you know? If you have the ability, because everyone does, but if you train yourself, you can tell that something is coming before it comes. You can calm yourself down, you can breathe better. Yeah. You know?
And I know you laughed, Msaki, but I feel like there's almost existence, anything that is an object exists because of the sound that it makes.
I mean, I'm not laughing. I mean, I'm a freaking, you know, I just was watching quantum physics videos just the other morning, and also watching videos of, you know, sunflowers having sound and things. Everything has a sound. And I think my favorite thing about Vinnie's music is that he's captured the sound of an area and he's let it affect him, but also he speaks back to it. So I mean, if you're calling your sound Buffalo City Blues, and that's and you have people singing that back to you, you know, Buffalo City Blues, beat me black and blue, Wow. And that's like, this guy grew up in East London in the inner city, and his first sound, you called it inner city soul. But for me, it's always like Vinnie's that like rose in the concrete. Sorry to be corny, but this is truly it. Like, how is such beauty growing in a space that's potentially, it could crush you, but he's there, like dancing with it as if he's in a boxing ring, looking at the beauty, running away from the danger, sometimes having to confront the danger, but there's always a song. And that sound is what we get to experience because he's embodied it. You know, the same way that, you know, growing up in the Transkei and going to, you know, Port St. John's, I go to the beach and I run into Abamamba Chaingawe and I have a song just land on my lap because the space, the sonics of that place are quite, you know, distinct. And if you're a sensitive soul, you'll tap into that. That's and true. One thing I know about him is that he's sensitive.
Msaki, you know, we've spoken a lot about a lot of things that, you know, the formation of sound for both you and Vinnie and how you experience it and so forth. But I also want to talk to how the diverse space at which you are at the moment. You are in composition, you are in curation, you own a record label, which is Alt Black. Continue. So I was asking Vinnie, how do I say it? Is it Alternative Black Continua, Alt Black Continua? But I want us to tap into this growing young beautiful child that you have that is called Alt Black Continua, and how it came about and why you felt the need to not just to sing the music but to also have an institution that controls how it moves.
So we need to make some hectic corrections here.
Okay.
I don't own a record label. I have released my music through Manchester Day Artistry, which is, you know, was the record label music leg of my, you know, how I release music. But we started Alt Black for independent artists like myself who potentially have their own entities, you know. And we were just saying, just because you're an independent artist, it doesn't mean that you have to be alone. So Alt Black, I'm a founder. I don't own anything.
Oh yeah.
I'm a founder of Alt Black, where I organized a support system for artists that I thought didn't need to go through some of the things I went through as an independent artist. So everybody owns their own stuff. We're just there to support and try and see how we can activate budget to get their visions going, creative support. We link them with the people they want, you know, producers, collaborations, and it's, you know, co-signing is it's a personal thing. It's a relationship thing. It's about, it's something that you can't force. It's like, you know, Vinnie's my friend and he's around, and I invite my friends to come and watch his shows. Sometimes we put them on and we organize them, and my team at Alt Black is making sure that we're doing our bit. We're trying. It's not perfect, but we're also learning how to serve this community. But this is a community that I come from, community that mirrors my struggle and also, my ambitions. And I'm part of it almost as an equal and as a child and as a learning a member. But at the same time, I also am like, if I had to come to Joburg and couch surf my friends' places for a week so that I could put my music out there, does Vinnie have to go through the same thing? So it's that kind of extension of support. But everybody's their own boss. They're doing their own thing. We're just a support when we can. And that's what Alt Black Continua is. And it is also philosophy. It is, we are looking at people that are cultural workers. We are looking at people that are pioneers of sound. We're looking at people that are affected by our cultural heritage, indigenous sounds, or people that are pushing genres or that don't fit in many, which is why the Alt Black is important, because where's the home for the alternative soul who's not doing the obvious thing? And also, how do you help those people exist in their little silo, but also find other ways to make their work make sense, outside of their genre, outside of their thinking, outside of their access and influence.
And what's the A&R process of like finding these talented people? I mean, with Vinnie, you guys had been in the same area, but there's people like Lomile, there's Ipupo Lagabiko, there's all these people, right? And I'll say this, I will give a context as to why I'm asking about the A&R experience, how I encounter the artists that are together in this collective and this institution that is Alt Black. I find them to be people who, one, are very spiritually connected. Two, it's almost people who are using music to either heal, as some form of activism, or just to bring some form of justice to people's existence. Was it deliberate that we're gonna go for these type of people, that they have to be, spiritually inclined, that they want to use their music to make a difference? I don't find it that it's in the popular genre space.
I don't think there's been any kind of prerequisite, but I know that, I was like, live music practitioners in South Africa and in Africa and in the diaspora are the most overlooked but most talented, and all of those things that you're sort of piecing together, that there's a lot of spirituality, there's activism, there's, those, I don't know, what does that mean? Like, we attract each other, right? And you find that you see these things as common denominators, almost as in retrospect. It wasn't like, they need to be A, B, and C. These are all organic relationships that form as we're moving through and trying to find our way in the sonic space. And I'm always like, why are people not understanding how important these artists are? So even us, we can't take all of these artists to where they need to be. They're on their own journey, taking themselves there. We're literally coming alongside and doing things that, logistical support for the gigs, making sure that booking agents know about them, organizing things and inviting people that can take them further. Vinnie's growing his own CV by just killing performances. He just played at Feta Little Music last week, and I'm confident that from that show and from what he did at the State Theatre when we played together, even though he played one song and in my set and opened his own set at the beginning, it was enough to convince people that this guy's ready, and he's been ready. And sometimes people are ready, they just need the right platform and to be seen in a good light, isn't like great production and already taking them seriously as a professional. We don't all have to go to the coffee shop first, When we're ready for the State Theatre, go to the State Theatre.
Go to the State Theatre. Yeah. And Vinnie, for you, as part of, the Alt Black family, and also somebody who had been, as Msaki is explaining, on his own independent journey and defining your own sound and already working on it, how would you say your, in terms of accessibility to platforms before and after Alt Black? Because I know that if you're doing blues, at a certain point, I grew up at a time, you remember when hip-hop guys used to get kicked off the stage, like, no, the house DJ is here, so get off the stage. And I feel like with people that are doing genres that are not necessarily commercial or in the mainstream,
niche markets,
you almost don't find platforms that give you that respect, that understand the sensitivity of your work and what you do. So with being a partner, or a collaborator in Alt Black, how has that allowed you to do your music in a way that is I would say mindful of its sensitivities?
As art forms, they all coexist, is what I learned. Collaboration. And the algorithm thereafter, you know, like that's one thing that I picked up first from the Out Black family, from the philosophy. Because even the word algorithm I hardly used until I actually saw what is happening.
Yeah.
You know, the platforms. I mean, there's platforms that I might have reached them, but I would never have reached them as quick as I have. Not to say that I haven't earned my stripes.
Oh no!
But I mean, these
if
people
you're
trust
singing
me.
blues, brother, and you're that good, we know you've been performing at clubs and people are not hearing you on the mics is off.
But I mean, look at where I've been since I've been collaborating with these people. You know what I'm saying? And they've trusted me enough to put me on big stages like that, where I felt like I deserved it. And they were like, "Yo, dude, let's go." You know, like at this moment, I feel like I've got way more power than I had if I was by myself. Because I like doing things the hard way. Like Msaki is always like, dude, why don't you just come through and just tell me what to go and tell me you're around? I like taking the hard way around, and I'm like, okay, yo, I'm in a corner. You know what I mean? Yeah. When there's really no need for that, because that's what makes or breaks people. Yeah. Many great artists have broken down and quit. You know what I'm saying? Because they're like, I can't survive this. I'm losing my family. I'm losing, you know what I'm saying? So for me, besides all the intellect in this, you know, the natural, the organic side of it, makes so much sense because it's a support base, saying let the sign to get to wherever we need to get to, and then you allow them to do what they need to do, you know. So everyone makes their own decision, and for me, that's like that's what willpower is, right? Like that's what the will is, and for me. And that's Out Black for me. Is
it not beautiful to find people who are like, because I think with musicians and the world, if you're an artist in general, whether you paint, whether you do, is the fact that people quickly see, oh, Vinnie is talented, and they want to own that particular talent. How important is that freedom of owning your own talent for you?
You know, like the sharing of knowledge, for example. Like you don't have to own knowledge either. You can't. You can try, but you can't. I mean, we're under the same moon and under the same sun, you know. But that's another big thing that I've noticed that like for this community. And look, we're in a whole new era right now. Like where we are right now, the world is going to remember this in 50 years' time. There's a lot that's going on right now, which is true, atomic. Yeah, you know. But also the sharing of energy. I mean, there is no owning. How do you own one man or his art? Yeah, sure, we can sign it away, but there's so many more albums in the sky. You know what I mean? So there's so much knowledge to share, and that's what I get out of it, the business end. Look, I don't care much for business. I don't care much for money. I don't know why, you know, but I'm learning that it's important because it's not just for me. It's about the next 2 generations that are coming from my lineage, you know what I mean? So like I'm learning all the time. I just keep learning all the time, you know?
So when there are contracts there, you refer it, Tommy, please. Do this thing. I just want to see.
What does this mean? Yeah. That's how I was. But now I see the importance of actually protecting myself beyond the individual Vinnie. You know, like there's companies within companies. And I understand. If we have 5 of us in a room and we're all companies, I mean, how much power do we have? We can do more with this.
So Msaki, I mean, also within the label itself, I'm finding that you are working and collaborating with a lot of ladies, right? And I think whether you look at it internationally or here at home, there's always been that categorization or boxing of women as, I think you mentioned it in one of your interviews and saying sometimes labels and producers treat you like flowers or decor on top of their music, right? So do you feel like it's changing when it comes to how much women own the structures behind their music and own their music as well? And how important is that for you, for more women to own the music that they create?
Definitely. I think it's happening more and more. I do think there needs to be an intentional push to just upskill a lot of people that have that potential but are also being discouraged by the environment, you know? I know so many composers that don't know that they're composers. They think they're just, you know, they're just writing top lines for and lyrics, and I'm like, hey, that's a bad baseline idea. And if you're in the right space and with producers that don't mind stepping out of the way and saying, actually, if you sang that again and I played it on piano, I would give you credit on the production side, because who was going to come up with that melody, you know? Now the person is and turned into a session musician to allow space for the genius. And then people like K-Faith, there's people like Thesis, there's, you know, that are composing their own music. Leon Miller is essentially a producer. she needs, you know, what the first thing I said to her was like, hey, firstly, can I call you what you are? You're a producer. She was sending vocal loops and ideas that she had done during COVID, and I'm like, you're laying the bedrock of your own music, and you've got very strong ideas about what world your lyrics and your melodies sit in. That makes you a producer. And she was
Leo
like,
Miller is powerful also.
Like, so you already, I know that we need to match you with an energy that's just completing your ideas, and somebody who's sensitive enough to allow you a lot of space to figure that out, you know. So I think even, you know, just even in the team and in the background, I find females so incredible because it's about care. I'm not saying that's a feminine quality only, but I just think it comes a lot naturally.
Yeah.
And you know, my team is full of strong, really sensitive, intelligent black women that I think can change, you know, the trajectory of artists' lives because of the way that they support and how they show up. They're not showing up with that attitude of, we're here to tell you what to do, and you know, it's really an attitude of support, but a firm support. So yeah,
I think because we're gonna wrap up sometime soon, one thing that I would like to tap into is activism. You know, it's like, and personally, I feel like this is, anyway, a very subjective, biased view of how I experience Msaki's music, right? So, yes, you do find these encouraging, empowering love songs. Yes, you do find these, you know, folklore songs in your catalog, but you also do find music that speaks to, you know, the conditions of black people. You also do find music in your catalog that questions, you know, the current powers that be, the society that is. Do you find yourself, you know, maybe being a person who, instead of like you're going out to a protest and, you know, being there and saying fees must fall, rather more inclined to going towards packaging that experience and putting it into your music? How do you protest? Maybe that's my question.
Yeah. I'm even reluctant to own the word activist because I feel like it's just it's like the town crier, you know. It's like I'm on a salary to lament, to say when it's sore, you know, especially when we become really desensitized. And I think it's part of the digital age, you know. You see something enough, you see those bodies on the timeline enough, your heart starts to get a bit hard and numb. And asikuzi immediately anymore, you know. And there is a desensitization, that fear that I'm afraid of. And sometimes, you know, sometimes for me, a protest song is a really personal song. It's me saying, oh, this is how I got whitewashed, and this is what values were replaced when I came from Ekaya and Nigwaezi, and this is what, you know, this is the cunning and thorough exercise that I'm crying about, and it's about uniform and my hair and friends and socialization and assimilation. And it's not a loud protest song, but it's a personal one, and it's about, you know, and when I'm singing about those statues, I'm imagining the ones inside of me, not just the ones that are falling because people are pulling down roads. You know, that is an external social song that I think I don't always, the onus is not always on me to carry it. It's, we all are in our own different ways are crying about the same thing. So you know, I don't know like those words, activism, protest, you know, they new, but I do know that if I can just declare when it's so on the day, I'm also doing something that I think I need to keep my own heart supple, and something that other people need, because we don't even have time to cry or hurt. You know, you got to move on to the next thing, and you know, once it's done trending, if you bring it up again, we've got language that we didn't have before. So what's the role of an artist today? You know, and I don't want it to be a heavy thing, but it's just like, I can't help it. You know, I sing that song because I am broken by it. And if you're not broken by it, don't sing the song. And if I'm not broken by it next week, I won't sing the song. So I don't know if I'm answering your question.
No, you've answered it with multiple layers, and still within this whole space of like human rights and, you know, protest and activism and all these big words. I think how I experience you is the fact that a lot of the time, maybe the law background kind of explains it, where you said you studied law for a short time, but in your music, I feel like you're also somehow always trying to get justice for people, you know? So
insane.
So it's one of those where I feel it, you know. I experienced the protest in its own subtle, gentle way. That's personal to you. I feel it and appreciate it. But I also want to talk about, just for you to reflect on, it's something that's old, but the situation that happened in Marikana, right? I know that partly it's something that I think I saw you just a little bit on social media commenting on, but I think it's also something that touched your heart very deeply.
Yeah, it was a big shift, I think, and I just maybe was on the cusp of my feelings about it, because, you know, it's weird, like you talk about justice. I've just had that work for Blood, Guns and Revolutions. I collaborated on a video and animation with Tabang Lahoye, and, you know, storyboarded it out. We spoke about it, and I transferred all the feelings. And he is an immaculate artist who does paintmation, and it just got taken into the constitutional law court, like art collection. And I was thinking about beauty and justice, something I say in one of my songs, that beauty is justice, you know, in this broken, ugly world. And that, you know, and reflecting on my time, even as a law student, the one subject that I connected with that made me sad to leave law was constitutional law, because it was dealing with justice. And I did this project, and I made art around this new work, Platinum Heart, which started out with the song Blood, Guns and Revolutions, where my idea of this country changed completely, because I think I had bought into the narrative that things are supposedly different, because we believe that the constitution will work and that democracy is real, you know. And so when Gutwa people that were protesting for a living wage have been, you know, almost like a premeditated murder, perforated with bullets, mortuary vans, when they're literally just saying, guys, please, we're underground, risking our lives, can we have a better wage? And some of them are shot in the back, and some of them, they're being herded by a razor wire. Something in me big cracked open, you know? And so that was the beginning of this new work. And in one of the side kind of explorations of it, you know, I made an installation of a courtroom. And it was called, I ended up calling it, what is it called? But it's basically talking about how it's a courtroom and a church. It has a pew, just like the church and the courtroom will have a pew or a stand. And it's talking about the spaces of violence. And I also was playing with the idea that sometimes the song or art is the last courtroom. It's the final courtroom, because real courtrooms will fail us over and over again. And to have the ability to open a trial in a song and to say, 8 years later, these people have no justice. Every time I sing that song, I literally say, accused number 1, the state. Accused number 2, the buffalo. Accused number 3, Lonmin. Accused number 4, is it the president that was sitting? Like all of those things. And the last person that I accuse are the police. Because they are puppets in a system where they need to get a wage. And I can't get past those things that there are all of these people that are accused. But there's no consequence. And there are no people that are being held accountable for widows in Marikana that are still saying, Haibo. And then our husbands, our sons, what? You know? Transkei, Lusikisiki, Lesotho, Botswana, and Zimbabwe, where people just don't have, you know, any kind of recourse for what happened. And that's literally what we're living in today. And this is what we're supposed to call democracy and an evolved, emotionally sober state that once had this Rainbow Nation narrative. So the heartbreak started, and it's literally still like pulsating. There's no, I'm not talking about a person who's healed. And this is just, you know, this is our state. And I'm literally just blessed with the words and the tools to be able to try and work through those emotions through art. But it's a mess.
And to archive the experiences of those people, which is important. Vinnie, there's always, which breaks my heart, a running joke that, you're going to see the Eastern Cape on cutting edge, you know, anytime soon, either for corruption or for kids. crossing a raging river or corruption in that community. For you as an artist, when you see these experiences of people that these people are intelligent, they're gifted, they're capable of achieving anything that they can achieve, but they're held back by how the state apparatus manages their lives. How does that make you feel? Because I assume you're an empath. You look like somebody who's able to draw in both pain and joy from the outside. And when you see these political happening against some of your family members, people that in your hometown, and you as an artist not even getting opportunities as a result of the political shape of where you are, how does that make you feel?
Yeah, look, it weighs me down a lot because I still deal with even how to express that in the right way. I think I'm too passionate when it comes to such a thing, Even like the question, I was worried you're going to come in my direction.
Yeah.
Because I might not say the right thing. I might regret it next time. But I know that there's a war going on out there. And I know about Eastern Cape, for me, is like enemy of the state. Let me come in that angle and not really express how I really feel. I don't want to do that.
Please do.
I just feel like Eastern Cape is enemy of the state, and I feel like its sabotage is not from within only, but outside. And I feel like my people don't understand how powerful they are. I can only speak for the people that I know. I know it's all of us, but I feel like my people have no idea how powerful they are, and they have no idea what fingerprint or thumbprint they have on the world that we live in. And so even before going towards governance, I'm really more worried about the social ills. For me, I'd rather destroy all of this governance of any sort, politics of any sort. For me, I feel like it's colonization. It was never going to work. It's not for us. That's how I feel, But here we are. So now I'm still struggling with understanding how to put it down without really burning anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm still working on that narrative without really burning anything down, because at the moment, I'm just an angry black guy, I'm an angry black man right now. Late 80s baby who just feels nothing but pain, I still need to sit down and really have something positive to push back.
And do you think people sort of grasp, especially for a province like Eastern Cape, like how much of you as a man have to work through the pain of the men that come before you in terms of what the system has done to them?
Well, I have to work through the pain of the man and the woman who come before me, because the pain of the men means twice as much pain for the women.
For the women, yeah.
Who then birth us.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking, hence I'm saying, for me, the social ills, it's really important. We have broken families galore. Grandmothers raise all of us. You know what I'm saying? I'm speaking about a huge percentage of us. I'm not talking about Ilali. I'm talking about just within the city. Imagine how it is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Elalini, where all the young ones are here, living emikukwin, chasing cash, leaving land behind. All the mistakes that our forefathers didn't make. Our forefathers fought wars for 200 years, not chasing cows, but fighting for land. But our mentality is backwards. So for me, it hits me, I feel like I've lived for 450 years. There's all this politics, but I'm really looking at something more than the politics. I feel like they should just go this way and we should continue this direction.
Do you feel like you still carry the rage of your ancestors?
Straight up. That's what I'm certain.
Yeah, no. Okay, that's one part. That's politics. I do tend to get too emotionally charged when it comes to politics, but I'm at a space where I think, Msaki, I've accepted the grace of I can only do what I'm able to do, in terms of, the work, in terms of my work in different spaces. I can protest, I can show some form of activism, but we, earlier on, we spoke about genre bending, which is, a more happier stuff as we close. You, Msaki, you were elated when Drake dropped the album, and he's not the only example, but
People
for
hate
you
me
it
right
was
now.
finally, yes. Here we go. And he wasn't the first. There's a lot of African artists that have also done same in terms of being dexterous in music. But why are you so passionate about breaking down the boundaries of this thing that is called genre?
I have no respect for it because it's just a construct, an emotional one that helps people that need to categorize music and do admin in the background, people that need to sell, people that don't know what it's called because they're not willing to deep dive and feel it, So for me, It's always been like 2 chords and I'm ready to write a song. Whether the chord is a gqom beat or the chord is a jazz diminished 7th, listen. If I shut up long enough, I'm going to hear a song. So it comes from a disrespect, but it also comes from a reverence of sound and music, and always being ready to dissolve in the sonics. Not really being able to say no to that. It's a passion thing. So for me, you know, I get to re-give the song Kusela, that's actually an amapiano song. I can do my own version on guitar. The essence, though, is what is it that you think that you're sharing? What is it? What makes the music music? Is it that chord progression? There's 1,000 songs with that chord progression. What's going on? You know, what is music? So the genre bending is literally about being willing to dissolve anywhere where music is happening, and not necessarily just to be a problem. But I'm ready. You know, I'm always ready to make music. Yeah, because I love it.
And then you are also with another genre bender here, because I listen to Makeleni and the blue stuff sounds completely different.
I mean, we were in like an alternative rock collective.
I was about to
We've
say.
been everywhere.
I was about to say, like, I'm smiling as she's saying, because I'm like, she hasn't changed. She's still like you're still you, because you've always been like that. Like you've always challenged that. You know, maybe you didn't notice at the time, but
I didn't know what I was doing.
You've always been pushing that, because like that's how that's all I see. Because like I'm thinking to myself, I'm on the Msaki that we are hearing speaking so confidently today. It's the exact same Msaki from those years back.